Okay, hey guys, what's going on? My name is Caleb. Welcome back to part 2 of Josh Scorcher's top 10 worst cliches in video games. And, yeah, without any further ado, let's go and get into this. Number 6. Okay.
You've all had this happen to you at some point, right? You're playing a game and you're on this one level, trying to complete your objective, but you can't move forward because the moment you do, you're turning into Swiss cheese by all the enemies attacking you. So you stay there for a moment, desperately trying to hold off your enemy, and then another moment, and then another, and then another. Finally, sick and tired of all this waiting, you run forward with this massive dash to your goal, only to have all resistance crumble before your very eyes. And so you wonder, logic.
Only in a game with infinitely respawning enemies. The biggest offenders of this trope are Treyarch's Call of Duty games.
Oh yeah,
Typical
definitely.
example being that one mission
Definitely.
in Black Ops that has an endless horde of
That's
baddies
honestly
trying to get
why
you.
I stopped
Yeah,
playing
once
Call
you
of
get to
Duty,
a
is
certain
because it
point,
was
they
just,
stop following
other
you.
than like just
Logic.
multiplayer
I
and
never
all
said
that,
a few
campaign
games
really
are
just
sandbox
sucked
games.
after
You
Black
know
Ops
the
2.
ones I mean, the ones that have an alarm system sending escalating hordes of enemies from all over the actual freaking planet. Not the game world to annihilate you until you hide for 30 seconds. Again, logic.
But the logic isn't the only thing that irritates us. The infinitely respawning enemies constantly replacing guys you just killed can continuously halt your advances and create a very boring and repetitive state of limbo. All pacing that was previously established just flies out the window.
Not to mention all RPGs. Many 8-bit games use this as well. Mega Man, Castlevania, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Which leads me to my favorite example. Launch! Why do birds keep entering my house?
Every gamer is different. Some are inherently or through practice better players than others, hence why we have difficulty levels. And how it becomes harder usually varies on the game.
There are some games, like the Kingdom Hearts series, where the enemies use their strongest moves more often. Also, most shooting games increase the amount of enemies that spawn, and hell, even some games increase the enemy's intelligence. But then there are those games. Those games that only increase the damage done to you and raise the enemy's health to ridiculous amounts. You know which games I'm talking about. The Elder Scrolls, BioShock, Dragon Age.
The worst offender of what I like to call fake difficulty settings is Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, where the enemy health on the hardest difficulty becomes downright absurd, yet there are no changes whatsoever in their attack patterns. And the thing is, we know how to beat these things. We know their attack patterns. They just don't die.
Probably the only time in recent memory where this has been done right was in Kid Icarus Uprising, where most of the bosses were pushovers, so the fake difficulty was kind of needed. But when games do this, it can be very infuriating. You already know the attack patterns. You can dodge every single dang move, but killing them takes forever!
You're the editor of this video, and therefore you need to take full responsibility for this. Because of you, you lost all of these fans who hates My Little Pony, and it's entirely your fault. If you put another toe in the line, we are sending disgrace back to America.
You plebeians and your My Little Pony.
Kinda glad that was off screen. Okay.
There's a category of character called the silent faceless character. These characters are, go figure, silent and or faceless. And these characters, most of the time, aren't interesting.
And they were? Indeed. There are some instances where the character doesn't need to talk. There isn't a lot of dialogue necessary in a game that has you strictly travel from point A to B, or in a game with an isolated atmosphere. Also, in many RPGs, the character is a blank state to allow you to insert yourself. This helps with gameplay immersion and can provide high-quality theses on the human condition. Furthermore, the lack of focus on a main character allows for the development of other characters, which is used extremely well in Persona 4. However, the problem we have is twofold. it is rarely used this way, and it's 95% of the entire medium.
The character of Gordon Freeman is one such character. All we know about him is that he is a physicist, and he has a beard. He has no personality to connect to, with many of the interactions he has with other characters often ironic and poking fun at his muteness, rendering any background Freeman has useless and trivial. Do we ultimately care that he is a physicist? Well, with no personality, we can't empathize with his decisions or actions as a physicist. I mean, he could have been a janitor and the story wouldn't have changed much, considering the small amount of actual sciencey stuff he does in the games. Plus, if the character was meant to be a silhouette for the player to insert oneself into, it completely backfires, as Gordon has a distinct appearance, an established backstory, and most people aren't physicists!
And there are characters like Soph McTavish from the Modern Warfare series who said absolutely nothing in the first game, then in Modern Warfare 2 would talk your ear off during cutscenes until you play as him, and then he goes back to being silent.
There are others who have detailed backstories but almost no dialogue in the game. The main character from Fallout New Vegas comes to mind with his background as a courier, before becoming Tabula Rasa number 2867.951, as well as the main characters from Borderlands, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, Kirby, Mega Man from the NES, and, well, Link.
In the earlier games, Link was surrounded by people that talked through dialogue boxes, yet Link himself did nothing to interact with them. Sure, he becomes a hero, but his path isn't deep or interesting. One thing I really liked about Skyward Sword is that you can make Link speak through dialogue choices, which could have easily been done in any earlier game. Okay, yeah, it was kind of done in earlier games, but that was more played up for laughs rather than character development. Link here can interact with the people in the world around him, making him feel less like a movable pawn influenced by the plot, and more like a developing hero performing acts according to the player's standards of heroism. Now, we realize this segment was very long and highbrow, so here's a picture of a monkey.
Who am I watching, you may ask? The one your eyes are beholding on your screen is none other than Mojo Jojo. I am Mojo Jojo, and as such will refer to me by that name, which is Mojo Jojo! Ha 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 ha! What is this? The number transition? Curses!
Mojo was one of the most annoying freaking
This
characters.
segment is going to talk about He's Not from Final Fantasy 12. As you can tell, I am not going to enjoy talking about this segment.
Why are you talking like Ami Wiseau, huh?
You seriously need to stay inside more. So, yeah. If we're gonna talk about Yzmat, we might as well talk about Insta-Deaths.
Yeah.
And suddenly the Wookiee suffered a fatal heart attack.
Insta-deaths are among the most aggravating occurrences in video games, be it from a boss, a random enemy you fight mid-game, or a trap that you didn't think through well.
Oh, damn.
Especially when you don't save regularly, causing you to lose all of your data. I'm looking at you, Skyrim.
A ton of 8-bit games revel on
Mass
the
Effect's
one-hit,
worse.
one-death stigma, like Transformers Convoy no Nazo, Silver Surfer, Contra, most of Action 52, and I want to be the guy. Most of the time it involves bottomless pits, spikes, lava, or water, but since we already did a speed-up gag, we're not going to list examples.
As we've stated, there are plenty of boss battles that have insta-kill moves. Games like No More Heroes have multiple bosses with moves that can kill you in one hit that you're never prepared for until they're actually used on you. Give Henry some credit, he at least gave a signal when he was doing something, but how are we supposed to know that you're not supposed to approach Bad Girl when she cries? How are we supposed to know that one of Shinobu's regular-looking attacks was actually an insta-death? How are we supposed to know that Jasper randomly punching you in the direction of a window is an instant kill?
The most humiliating one has to be the one from Kid Icarus Uprising. If a tempura wizard hits you, he turns you into a walking tempura and then eats you for a one-hit kill!
Run, run, I hunger.
Okay.
Oh, sweet unfight Jesus, why?
Wow, it's apocalypse! Yeah, massive case of heartburn notwithstanding. So what do we have to do now?
Vehicle sections.
I know we called cover systems a plague on modern gaming before, but honestly, vehicle segments are easily worse. I mean, sure, cover systems are stock, but at least they can be done decent on occasion. tell me, aside from an actual racing game, when has a vehicle section been fun?
Oh, well, there were some fun ones in Jack Free.
Oh yeah, and there's some pretty creative ones in Call of Duty.
And you could make the argument that the Galaxy series had vehicle sections.
Shut up! I'm angry and therefore I'm right!
Uh-huh. Anyways, the point we're trying to get
Fair
across is that vehicle sections are most of the time not done very well. The controls for them usually suck, with them being very slow, clunky, inaccurate, and not to mention overly complicated for such small portions of the game. Being such a departure from the normal gameplay, they really change the pacing of the game's story. Most of the time for the worst.
A prime example of this has to be Mako from Mass Effect. Did you hear that? Did you hear that collective scream? Yeah, that was from all of us who remembered the fucking thing! Not only was it poorly controllable on flat ground, its combat was repetitive, it loved to get stuck in the terrain, and was as sturdy as a woman around Tom Hiddleston.
What is the most iconic thing about the Sonic franchise?
Now, I
Speed.
will say this.
So,
After playing Mass Effect 1 on console
to
for
run around in vehicles, blowing crap
probably
up in
like 5
molasses
years,
speed
I think,
vehicles and swearing along
if
the
not
way?
more,
Hey Sega, this is not
it's
fun.
the Mako's a shit ton easier to control on freaking PC than it is on console. It's a whole lot easier to control with a mouse and keyboard than it is ever with a freaking controller. So, yeah.
Perfect runs. This one will make you break blood vessels.
Vehicle sections, to wrap this up, are annoying changes of pace and are often sluggish and impossible to control, cementing them at the top of this list.
Oh, dude, we're only at number 2.
Fuck. Nice.
Let's recap before we get to number 1.
Number 15, forced failure.
Number 14, luck-based events.
Number 13, button mashing.
Number 12, cover systems.
Number 11, pulling a Metroid.
Number 10, save points.
Number 9, water levels.
Number 8, Jason!
Number 7, Orochi.
Number 6, infinitely respawning enemies.
Number 5,
Number 4,
Number 3,
Die.
Number 2, vehicle sections.
Number 1.
you hate them. We hate them. Everyone known to man hates them. You ask what I'm talking about? The answer will likely make you convulse
Nope.
with... Ow!
Ow! What the heck was that for?
We are not referencing that video.
But how else are we going to dramatically build up
Escort missions. Escort missions.
Buzzkill.
They do suck.
Anyways, escort missions are easily the most frustrating game mechanics of all. Are there good escort missions? Yeah. Ico, Prince of Persia Sands of Time. That's 2. Out of a lot.
Escort missions are nearly always let down by terrible setup, horrendous difficulty balance, and unbearable pacing. On top of protecting yourself, you have to protect someone else, and that someone else is usually a freaking idiot. And I don't just mean AI. Most of the time, the people you're supposed to guard are simply unbearable to be around.
In Earthworm Jim, your escortee is an even bigger burden on you, because every time he gets hit, he drags you back further in the level, impeding your progress for no good reason. Okay, look, I know Earthworm Jim doesn't make too much sense to begin with, but come on!
Skyward Sword has an escort mission that shouldn't even be there. You're supposed to protect Scrapper as he transports a water basin up to the summit of a mountain. Here's a question. If we got to the mountain by skydiving to it, and we can skydive to any eagle statue we find, wouldn't the logical thing to do be to start at that eagle statue on the summit because it's closer? And if Scrapper sustains enough damage, you have to repair him by traveling all the way down the mountain. How does that make sense?
And has anyone else played
That sounds
War
annoying.
Galactic
That
Adventure
sounds very
people
annoying.
created escort missions? Oh. Well, those are bad too.
Jak 2 is filled to the brim with escort missions, and all of them not fun. They all involve you protecting an NPC from enemies while they accomplish some task. No, take your time. Not doing anything important here. Killing things, almost dying. No rush, nope.
And in glorious developer logic, 2K Games decided that the absolute worst part of Bioshock, where you escorted little sister while she gathered Adam for you, should be implemented 10 times over in the sequel. Instead of just killing the Big Daddy and choosing whether or not to save or harvest the little girl, you have to defend her from waves of splices, while she playfully and without any urgency whatsoever extracts Adam for you. Then, you escort her to a hole in the wall, and only then can you save her. Alternately, after you kill the Big Daddy, you can choose to harvest her. And that's it. Boy, are they making the evil option look very good right now.
Shut up!
Well, shit.
So yeah, how's your grandma?
Nice.
Okay. In all fairness, the mechanics behind the Ashley missions in Resident Evil 4 were relatively flawless. However, these missions are left nauseatingly terrible by the sheer fact that Ashley herself is more irritating than the combined forces of Tidus, Shinobu, and Navi.
Ashley is that special kind of irritating that while her voice would be grating anyways, it is made even worse by her actress's performance. Ashley sounds merely agitated and even vaguely mocking whenever she's captured, rather than sounding like she's genuinely crying for help. Also, thanks to the general lack of variance between her lines in this game, how often she's captured, and how often she yells at you, I now pronounce the mute button as my Lord and Savior.
On a technical level, the Ashley missions aren't exactly the worst escort missions around, but they're probably the most egregious example of how they can be misused horribly.
Bottom line, escort missions are the worst video game cliche of all time. And to all who think that this kind of artificial intelligence can be smarter than an actual human...
I'm the Autarch of Flame.
Jimmy, I'm the Fiery Joker, and would you kindly escort me back to America?
Wait, what? Nice. Alright, well, that was that. Let me go ahead and transition out of there. Is there something else at the end here? Oh wait, there is something else. Hang on. Can I get rid of the annotations on screen? Well, that's not one I want to get rid of. Fuck it, whatever. Let's take a look at this.
Wouldn't the correct term be Adios Amiga?
Yeah.
Adios Amiga, computer. I'll see you next Commodore. Terrible puns for the win. Okay.
Okay then. So that was part 2 of top 10, or not top 10, top 15 worst cliches in video games. Yeah. All those are pretty bad. Yeah. So, anyways, I got really nothing else to talk about. Like I said, I'm kind of in a weird state, and I'll probably do a different video later on talking about it. It is almost freaking 9 o'clock. Good God, man. Jeez. It's been a long ass day. I don't know what the hell I'm doing right now. Yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button down there. Comment what else you guys would like for me to react to, whether it's from Josh Scorcher, Green Scorpion, or any other countdown list, whether it be video games, movies, whatever you guys would like me to react to. And, yeah, I'll make sure to try to find the time to do that. Yeah, I say way too much. You guys probably start doing a drinking game. Please don't. Fuck. I did it again. Anyways, As always, subscribe if you guys are not subscribed for more of these videos here on my channel. And until next time, I will see you guys later.